Hello, Global Village. No, it's a global theater here. We're calling it to Canada. It's October 10, 2021. We're on Rob Grant's amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything for interviews number 7. Thank you so much, Rob. We'll see you in the
Thank you.
multiverse.
See you in the
So
multiverse.
that's it. Thank you so much. Clint Enns. What a pleasure.
Hey,
You're
it's nice to
calling
be here
Yeah, well, you're calling from where?
from Montreal, Canada.
Oh, how
Montreal,
cool.
Quebec. Yeah, it's pretty rad.
So that's good, Clint. It's great to meet you finally in person. So the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
Oh, geez. I have no idea. It's like, I guess it depends on the person. I don't want to speak for other people.
Yeah. Well, just to put the whole interview in context, we're more interested in your hunch or your feelings or your guess.
Sure, I like all of that. And there's a lot of bullshit too, right? I'm hoping a little bit.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun bullshit and fun sincerity, but the main thing is to have fun. So again, you put the questions into the context you want. So if I say, what's the best thing for a human being? You could say, for other people, I would say this. For me, I would say that. So you put all the questions into the context you want.
Sure. I like there's two things, but I'll only speak personally. I'm not going to speak for other humans. I like a good night's sleep.
That's a great answer.
It's true. You need to sleep, and sleep well, and hopefully sleep well, and like I think like doing what you like doing for your quote unquote job, or like how like the time in between sleeps, right?
Yeah.
So, because you got to make a tiny bit of money in this world. That's the capitalist system, So you have to survive and eat and all that other stuff. So hopefully you can find the thing that you're not selling your soul for. You're just doing what you love, right? Pays the bills.
That's really well put. Frank Zappa said, in order to be the music business, you have to sell your cock and your balls.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I asked a rock star that, and he goes, gee, I thought you only had to sell your soul.
It's very true. It's very true.
So what's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Pardon me, could you repeat that question?
What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Oh, wow. That's like, these are all really hard. You're asking the hard questions. I thought we were going to talk about flicks, I like movies. They're like one way I receive information. I like a lot of like, I don't like spending too much time on the screen, but I like, if I'm going to watch the news, I'll probably watch Democracy Now! If we're talking about news information.
Right.
But like, I spend a lot of time on the Instagram now, and I like that type of information. I don't like a lot of social media, unfortunately. I don't like Facebook, so I'm not on it. But of course, Facebook owns Instagram. It's not like some sort of political statements. I don't like, fighting with my, somebody I knew in high school about vaccinations. I don't want to have that. Don't particularly want to have that fight or that conversation, or I don't have any interest in that. So I like Instagram because nobody really fights on the medium, or at least I don't see it. You just kind of look at nice photos. It's but yeah, it would depend on the type of information. But yeah, I like the fact that it's like, I prefer my information less social, I guess.
That's fine. No, that's a good answer. Why do you think humans collect information?
Oh, it's a good idea. That's like, a really interesting question too. We've kind of went through. We've kind of transitioned from collector culture. I think there's been a major sort of shift recently, and that is from archiving, from collecting. So think about like when like torrents were new, and you could collect every movie, and so people just like started downloading as many movies as they could fit onto like a hard drive, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And not having the time to watch them all. But I'm gonna watch this in the future or whatever. So there's this impetus to collect this stuff by some people, not by everyone, of course. But we've sort of transitioned from that sort of archiving information to streaming information.
Yeah.
So you can like sort of think about like, oh yeah, I want to watch that flick. I don't need to download it. There's a link online where I can just stream it, right? And so it's like, which I think is like it's kind of like changes the way we interact with media as well. The change from the archive to the stream, which we're undergoing. What you see in things like from Flickr to Instagram, Flickr being the archive, Instagram being the sort of stream. And I think it's like it's kind of like, I don't know if you can talk about anything that happens on a computer as sort of like a major shift, but it's like, it seems like a pretty major shift. It seems like the social function of like archiving has sort of changed, right?
Clint, that was really good. Evoked one major thing is, if people like books and read printed matter, they collect a lot of books. They may tend to collect a lot of books, and they may not be able to read all those books, but they
True.
like the idea of seeing the titles on the shelf. And it's
Yep.
almost like my friend said, you can just sort of acquire the knowledge from the book by just seeing the title, that, oh, I know I have that on my shelf. So it was like when you collected DVDs or VHSs, you saw the titles. And now
Yeah.
with streaming, there isn't like this ongoing ticker tape line on your wall of all the movies that you could possibly stream.
Totally.
You forget. You mean every Hollis Frampton film I can see forever and ever.
And you shouldn't watch half of them. Like the hits are the hits for a reason, It's like, sorry, Mike Zarid. Sorry to the Frampton scholars out there, but
right. And I couldn't believe this person at our Carl Jung reading group the other day mentioned Begotten, the film that is like, have you ever seen or heard of this film, Begotten?
no.
Dude, it's Susan Sontag's favorite film. It's like a experimental feature, sort of like Eraserhead, but like really creepy. But
Sure.
it's got one, just go on Wikipedia and read about it. And I went, how do I not know about this?
I don't know about it. I'm going to watch it. You sparked my interest.
Just watch. I'm not asking you to watch it. Just watch the 4-minute trailer. That's the other beautiful thing about the
4-minute trailer is the equivalent of having the book on your shelf. You read the back cover and maybe the first few pages in.
You got it, and it's the difference of your brilliant distinguishing between archiving and streaming. It's the two things. I say just watch the trailer. Any film I recommend to anyone, I go, you don't have to spend 90 minutes of your life. Just watch the 2-minute trailer. And then
there's certain films I enjoy giving 90 minutes to, just like there's certain books I enjoy giving the.
Right. No, and I'm not saying not to, but I'm just saying they can do that.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you go to an art opening. And you're really there just to drink the beer and hang out with your friends, but you like kind of look at the work and you're like, do I come back next week because I enjoy this? Like, do I want to invest? It's like the trailer for the opening's like the trailer for the show, right?
It's totally, you got it perfect. So, is this need or want for humans to collect information more innate or more invented?
Oh man. like I'm pretty like I'm fortunate. I don't collect information even during that sort of period. I would download the shit that I want to watch. And I was watching like a lot and reading. Like I don't have like a huge library. I have like a decent library. Most of the books I've read, some of them I'm going to use as references. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to like steal a chapter from that or something. But I'm not like a collector by nature. But that's not totally true either. Like I have a project right now where all I do is collect other people's photos on the internet from Flickr. Project's called Internet Vernacular, and like I can't like it's an obsession. So yeah, it's a compulsion. You know, it's like hoarding. I'm sure it's like a compulsion. You know.
Yeah.
So it seems innate, but we also live in like a certain system that like encourages collecting, you know, like we live in this sort of capitalist system that, you know, encourage us to spend more and, you know, own everything. So is it like a byproduct of that, or is it like this obsessive compulsive nature within yourself? I don't live outside of that system, right? But it's nice because like with the Internet Vernacular, it makes me no money and like it doesn't cost anything. So it's like, so maybe I'm just satifying these capitalist urges through like collecting people's goofy photos, you know?
Yeah. No, I can relate because I'm a dumpster diver and people go, they think, oh, that's so cool. I go, I don't need thrift shops. I can get really high quality everything from dumpsters. And they think it's cool. And I goes, it's horrible because it's like going to Costco every day and not paying. So you're still a consumer. It doesn't matter if you're spending money or not. It's just you're consuming. So it's like ridiculous. So
I have a friend who makes a living through selling the stuff he finds dumpster diving, and he runs a really interesting blog called Garbage Finds. It's worth the shout out. In Montreal, and he had garage sales and sells stuff online and collects metals and then, you know, brings the metal in, but he makes like a decent living. He's like a weird dude, but I kind of view it as kind of like the kind of like an anti-hero thing too, you know? It's like but no, but he has these issues too, you know. He has other compulsions, but is this because of the system or is this because of some like innate thing within? I don't live outside of the system, so it's like, you know, as much as I try, you know.
No, you really get how we're operating. So again, it's just your hunch and how you feel. The next question is, do thoughts create emotions?
Well, yeah.
Do you think thinking is more innate or more invented?
Oh, personally, so this is like, yeah, we're getting like weirdly philosophical here, and I can't back this shit up by anything. But like, it seems like it's like it's a byproduct of like evolution,
right?
You know, like it's like we're first had like, we don't have fangs and stuff, like so we can't really fend off the bears and whatnot around us. So you develop a complex sort of visual system, so you can see the bears coming, so you can, you know, run away. And like all of a sudden, so we have like a fairly complex visual system, and like we probably have some sort of memory because, like, you know, you don't want to touch a fire twice, you know, and the people who did, they go away. The ones who, you know, so it's like, so we have some sort of memory, but like it's probably like lately I've been thinking like time is just like the moment, and like all of the memories just are gone. The future we don't know, you know, but it's just like this present moment, and it's like the past didn't happen. It doesn't matter if it happened or not, but it's a good thing because we don't want to touch the fire twice, you know. But like, because this is as an atheist too, and blah blah blah, you know, like I don't think we're divine beings or anything like that. We're like pretty flawed and fucked up. So it's like, seems like that's I think natural or language came the same way too. It's like a byproduct of evolution as well. And now we can like communicate in fairly complex ways, just like we can think in fairly complex ways. But it's just like this accident, you know. And
Well,
our emotions.
Yeah, you
are
basically evoke the next question. So you must have ESP. Can humans think? Can humans think without language?
yeah, it's like mixed up, you know. Like I think fairly visually often.
Yeah.
So and that doesn't require language per se. But
Yeah.
in order to describe those ideas to someone else, you need some form of communication. And if it's language, so be it. But it could be, you know, like we're communicating through squares or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And it probably came through that, like the ability to sequence complex events, like let's say the throwing of a stone, right? Like that action, that's a fairly complex sequence of event if you want it to hit a target, right? And that's in essence what language is. You know, you're choosing these words and you're doing it fairly quickly, and you're not really thinking about what you're going to say next. It happens fairly naturally, you know, like that throwing the stone.
It's like breathing. We can consciously breathe, but most of us breathe all day on automatic pilot.
Yeah.
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 So fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
experience it, maybe.
Good. No, that's
maybe.
good. No, I like that. That's a good answer. So Chomsky said that language is not just words. It's culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Clint, how do you cope when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Oh shit, we're like living that right now. Like it's very embodied. It's really weird because like it's communication's not really working on the left or the right. We're in like this weird time where like the left is on memo culture. Hey, did you get the memo? We only talk about these things these ways. If you don't, you're, you know, an ist of some type, you know. And it's just like, so that's like on the left, like the what I consider like I guess the extreme left at this point. And it's like, oh, did you get the memo? Only these ways. And then it's updated because that gives you cultural capital within your small community, you know. And then on the other side, it's like you have like on the right now, you have people that like aren't listening to like basic reasoning or some sort of form of more complex reasoning, maybe. You know, like the conspiracy theories that start to pop up. And they're not like, it's like all conspiracy theories. They're not totally untrue. Like we have reasons not to trust big pharma. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Like, so, and at a time where like everyone's encouraging you to get like the vaccination becomes the obvious thing, but there's like a lot of other really weird things. We're also at a time, my friend Cam Monio is kind of like this brilliant film scholar, and he was looking at conspiracy theories and sort of he was his sort of argument was kind of like the myth of total cinema. You know, we'll never be able to capture the world in cinema, but we're like, that's what we sort of strive for. Whereas like, and it's a myth that we could do this, but his sort of thing was like the myth of information. The more of it that we have, you'd think that you get closer to the truth, right? But this just opens up more gateways. Yeah. Right. So it's the myth of total coverage. You'll never like, there'll always be a babushka lady. You know what I mean? Like if we're going to talk about JFK, there'll always be that additional element. Like we could have had a total 360 degree coverage of that event, and there'd always be the conspiracy because each one would open up a new sort of narrative for us, right?
No, I'll give you a perfect follow-up to that is Bob Dobbs says that in its sort of like what Vanity Fair magazine, You Should Tell Your Friends, said that conspiracy theory is literature criticism. It's a form of lit crit. And
Sure.
so Bob says this funny thing about the Kennedy assassination. He said Oswald was hired to hit, but he missed by mistake. So every theory is right.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, including Craig Baldwin in Tribulation 99, where he said, you know, Oswald had to be an alien to hit a target at that, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know,
one of my favorite flicks too.
Yeah, oh yeah. I know we have a lot in common in regards to experimental film, and we
Sure.
will get to that. So, but in general, what do you think? Are humans more feeling beings or more thinking beings? I know it's both and it depends, but just your hunch in general.
Feeling or thinking?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh, I have no idea. I'm a sociopath, so like I'm the wrong person to ask.
Look at that. Clint, one thing you have to realize, if you say I have no idea, that's fine. Don't feel like I'm trying to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, you are putting me on the spot. I'm a tiny bit hungover too. I went out with my coworkers last night.
Well, no, you're doing good. Now these are two questions from Alan Turing, 1950.
Sure, yeah.
Is thinking a function of the soul?
Oh man. We'd have to ask a Turing machine that, you know. Like,
okay, the second question he asked is, can machines think?
Don't they already?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No,
can they feel is like can they feel is probably a different thing, but that also feels like, yeah, they think more than I do. Yeah. They think for me often. Maybe that's also what's led to the spread of misinformation, quote unquote, or whatever we want to call that. You know,
letting machines,
letting the machines think for us. You know, like if you're a conspiracy theorist and you needed to hit the library every fucking day, your misinformation level is going to go way down, right?
And again, it's what you choose. I mean, I was impressed that you dropped Democracy Now! Right off the bat. I mean, I think Amy's too intense to watch daily for an hour, but for the first 10 minutes, the first sum up for 10 minutes is really important. And then I balance it by watching or listening the first 10 minutes of Coast to Coast. So I get the really extreme right and extreme left. And then, you know, all the rest of the stuff is going to come to me through other people saying, you know, there was an earthquake.
Through the comedy shows, the late night comedy shows now.
The comedy shows, Colbert.
Yeah.
Clint, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I'll come to that. But I think they're related again. But the Democracy Now! I couldn't watch it during the Trump era. I had to turn it off. I just couldn't. Like it broke me. And like I've only recently started going back, and like now, like it's still hard, you know, to listen to the news. But that during the Trump era, I couldn't do it. Like it hurt. So whatever that means, as a sociopath, whatever, I was like hurt by this. But yeah, pursuing meaning or happiness, I find like happiness in knowledge.
Yeah.
But I find happiness in a lot of other things. And I sometimes, like, I went out with I work as a dishwasher, and I went out with my coworkers last night and you know, had a few too many beers with them. And, you know, I don't think we're searching for any sort of meaning, but it was nice to hang out. And I really like my coworker. I don't know. It's like you have to pursue, as a bit of a degenerate, you have to pursue some of those base like desires too, you know?
Right. No, that's good. Now, do you think the brain more detects consciousness or creates consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
Oh no, we're totally creating it.
Wow.
Yeah. There's nothing bigger than us, you know? Like the self, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm glad we can communicate, but I don't think we're tapping into anything. I haven't done enough LSD to be like, oh yeah, I've tapped into the greater consciousness, you know? Like I know kids from your era, they're the greater consciousness era. They're also like doing the right drugs for that.
Well, you know, talk about conspiracy theories. My favorite is Albert Hoffman invents LSD, then the CIA hijacks it, feeds it to a bunch of hippies, and then the hippies, and then they start MK Ultra, and then the hippies invent the internet so that the hippies can figure out through the internet what MK Ultra and LSD did to them, because they basically know that Sidney Gottlieb started MK Ultra by reading Finnegan's Wake.
Sure.
And, and,
You're starting to.
Yeah, and Marshall McLuhan broke the code, so we're all set.
That's cool. Who's the British hypernormalization? Oh, you're starting to get a little Adam Curtis there.
Oh,
you know?
Adam Curtis. Oh,
there
yeah,
we go.
Adam Curtis is definitely an agent, but he is so.
Yes.
No, he's like all the great sci-fi, Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and Philip K. Dick. They all, in a way, metaphorically or for real, worked for the man, and and then they might not know they're working for the man, but that's like Adam Curtis is amazing. I love his films and I love to study him, but it's like everybody who listens to Amy Goodman loves Adam Curtis, and they don't realize that he is not a progressive lefty.
No, definitely not.
And it's like, here's my imitation of Adam Curtis. Here's a lot of facts, and I'm gonna back it with a lot of great visuals, and you're fucked because I'm telling you this in this secret kind of coded language.
Yeah,
and you go,
totally.
I get it. And
I get it, man.
I mean, he's the ultimate found footage artist right now.
Yeah, I agree. I like, but he also there's like, and there's so much he's wrong about, so on and so forth. But it's like he also, like, speaking about thinking and emotion, he's creating like emotional histories.
Totally.
And like it reminds me of it actually reminds me, it's very similar to the way like Sebald works, like W.G. Sebald, like in the way like Rings of Saturn sort of functions, books like that.
Yeah.
In the fact that like it's like these are emotional histories, and they're pointing at like something larger without saying it.
Yeah.
And so you feel it. You feel his arguments. But he's definitely not a progressive lefty. There's like, if you're but like I think a lot of his arguments are compelling. And I don't agree with a lot of his conclusions.
Yeah. They're very compelling, and some of them ring totally of progressive lefty. So they're right. It's okay for them to tag on to them. But
he also works for the BBC. He has access to everything. You know, he probably has so many assistants sorting. So people are like I know Mike Holbom and I were talking about this at one point, and he's like, how does he build, like, just imagine this task. Like, Mike is a found footage artist. Like, how do you do this? And it's just like, he has a team. It's not like
Clint,
and he has access to everything.
Yeah, Clint, you should read the New Yorker article on Christian Marclay making the clock.
I'm sure he had a studio working for him, blah blah blah.
He had a bunch of people, but he still went crazy.
Yeah,
he admitted that making a 24-hour film with 10 people or a whole crew of people going to every video on the video shelf and finding every reference to time, he still went crazy doing it. So you really get this. Let's keep going. So what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Light just beat me there.
Okay, the poet. I like this because you laugh after every question and answer.
Yeah, no, they're very fun.
Yeah,
I'm having a good time.
yeah, that's what it's all about. Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer said you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Oh, that's hard. We've already um, argued against the internet as doing that. So
Well, I thought you sort of already answered it. You said Instagram.
Instagram's interesting. But I wouldn't want to use. I don't think it's a political tool as well. Like it's an aesthetic enjoyment. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's not a tool I'd want to use to dismantle anybody's house. You know, it's like like I'm still a product on there. You know.
Yeah.
And then recently I got asked to be an influencer by an experimental film festival, Windex, and I hired an actual influencer to play me because I thought the idea to hire experimental filmmakers to promote an experimental film festival in that way as influencers was kind of gross.
Wow.
But you
got integrity, dude. So what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
And everything now. Like, we're at the height of anxiety. All of this will go away too, but we're also not the last generation. I don't think. Who knows? Like unless like a meteor strikes us or whatever.
Yeah.
But like every generation has thought they're at end times. You know.
Yeah.
Before us, like every writer writes about how they're at the end. So like the end times anxieties. You know, they're there. Like climate change is pretty real, but you know we're gonna do something.
Yeah.
Like. You know, and we probably should because we don't want to burn up or whatnot. But it's like, yeah, unless like some meteor strikes, we're not the last generation, you know, and yeah. So it's that stuff. But I have a lot of anxiety about the times we live in, of course, you know. Yeah. And I don't know how much of that's man-made or how much of that's like you turn on CNN and it's just like vaccination, the coronavirus. And like, it's pretty serious, but it's like, like that raises your anxiety pretty quickly.
That's their job, is to keep you in a trance so that you have to return to them and keep getting, they thrive on conflict. So you know, that's whoever manipulates our so
but I like conflict in the terms of like dialectics. I like when people argue and you know so like that's what I like about Democracy Now! Returning. Like I like how they present like both sides and they have like informed people argue. Like that's part of it. So it's not, I'm not against the conflict, but yeah, it's like it's like this false conflict. Like,
well, I would say what you're saying too is how people go, oh, it's horrible. We have fake news. I goes, we've always had fake news, you know, and you're saying, well, it's worse now. I says, well, then sharpen your critical thinking skills better. It's enabling you to sharpen your critical thinking skills. So it's not, you know, it's like McLuhan has this great thing. He says, everything we invent has services and disservices.
Yeah.
So it's how you cope. So this is the next question in regards to that. McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So like, let's just use that as an example. The news has an intention. They invented the news to inform you and sell products in between, but there's a hidden psychic effect of news that shapes behavior. And you laid it out. One of them is anxiety. Well, why would you watch the news every night? Or if it gives you anxiety, well, maybe you're sussing it out and you're saying it's easier to deal with that anxiety and than my own personal or whatever. That's a hidden psychic effect.
Yeah,
let's
sure,
say,
sure.
of the news. So McLuhan's, one of his main probes was, if we can look to the artist to reveal these hidden psychic effects, whether they're filmmakers or writers or whatever, to reveal these hidden psychic effects of our inventions, why do we still ignore the hidden psychic effects?
Yeah,
So how would you approach that? Why do humans still ignore them?
Oh, it's really, I have no idea. I wish more people would turn to artists, but then again, like, there's a weird, like, there's something weird going on too with artists at this time. Like, we're required to be like a certain way. Like, you have to also, you can't just be an artist now. You've got to be a saint, otherwise, you can't be a degenerate anymore. You have to make safe work. So there's a whole bunch of reasons how we're being trained to make safe work too, through like the academy, through in Canada, through the Canada Council of the Arts. Like, you want to get funding, make the safe shit,
Yeah.
And so it's like, even though you're judged by like your peers, they've all the other stuff. So there's like sort of an impetus to make safe work. But I like the pure artist, like someone like myself, the real artist. Just, ignore that. That's hilarious.
No. It's not ignorant, because I wanted to bring up, it's like, you go, I'm a psychopath, I'm a degenerate. It's like, well, at least you're not like Joe Gibbons and you're actually in jail.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Joe's out now,
Is he out now? And I'm not dissing or condemning Joe Gibbons.
No, he's fascinating. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I've had him in my Pixel Fest 12 times out of
Sure.
31 years.
Yeah, those films are fantastic too.
He's an amazing filmmaker, but was he not going along with society norms by stealing art books or whatever he did to get in jail, or whatever he did to get in jail?
He robbed a bank as an artistic act. Like, it's like, it's brilliant, but it's also caused him a lot of pain too. Like, and then people seem to ignore that through mythology. Like, he's kind of like a perfect, like, quintessential sort of like American artist too, when you think about it. He's like the bad boy of art.
He's like,
and he has cred now. Yeah. He was at Rikers. He has cred now. He was at Rikers. No, there's something about it. Like, I consider myself like a proletariat artist. I work as a dishwasher. Like, I've got some cred. You want to talk class? Like, I work at a restaurant where I can't even afford to eat. No joke. And so it's like, so you want to like I embody sort of contemporary Marxism. Yeah.
No, it's
like cred, street cred.
Yeah, don't laugh. I think it's very true what you're saying, especially because you're able to say it. Because I'll bring in another artist who had a lot of cred too, but he wasn't in jail, is Mike Kelly.
Sure. And
Mike's an amazing. I asked him all these questions twice over a 10-year period. Like, once, and then 10 years later, I asked him these questions again, and he had a lot of cred, I think. And, highbrow artists like John Waters, like, oh, I love, Mike Kelly, but, they all still cater to the art world.
Sure. Yeah, no, he had integrity. He was like, I really like, he's like a good example of like, I'm like, I really like Mike's work, and I really liked it, the way he approached it.
Yeah.
But like, then again, like, I'm not like, don't make the clock, yeah, sure. Work with the studio, do it. Like, just don't make Adam Curtis work. I love that work. Like, so it's like, I'm not also like, so you have a bit of cred, but I'm not like accusing Adam Curtis of selling out by any means.
Right.
Like,
but let's go with that word, selling out. This is fun.
Sure.
So, Flipside, the punk magazine that spawned the Simpsons and every fucking bank executive in LA who were once punk rockers. It's a great magazine, Flipside.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And the roots of LA punk. And I am proud to say I had several articles in there.
Perfect. I love it.
Al from Flipside, the founder of the Flipside, said, "Don't sell out, sneak in."
Yeah, sure. Yeah, fuck it up from the inside. Maybe that's the tools that we're talking about too.
Yeah.
You know.
But then Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver, and Paul Schrader's interesting because he was raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan by really religious parents, and they wouldn't allow him to watch films growing up. So if you do that to your kid, like you can't watch The Simpsons or you can't play Squid Game, if you don't allow your kid, you better be careful. They're going to grow up and write Taxi Driver.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
He said the role of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail.
Yeah, that's really awesome too. Those are all great quotes.
But again, it's like I'm for people who make, the guy who sold an invisible sculpture a couple weeks ago for like $500,000. I'm like,
sure.
Bravo, all the power to him. But people go, that's bullshit.
Or Richard Prince would be another good example, selling Instagram images.
Or Banksy's again, like Banksy. Like you want to love Banksy, but then you're like, yeah,
But exit through the gift shop's brilliant. So
no, I mean everything he does is brilliant. And
they're good art. They're good art pranks. I love it. How can you not love a good art prank?
I know it. And here's the funniest Banksy is. There's a guy on the Venice Boardwalk who used to sell prints of Banksy for like $5 because he says on his website, or he or she or the committee who is Banksy, they say you can print out any of these artworks and sell them yourself and take all the money.
Yeah.
Banksy. And that's a cool thing for Banksy to do. But there's a lot of his work that you can't print out. So it's like, yeah, go to a wall and chisel out the graffiti and then go sell it to a museum. People do that.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I went up to the guy on the Venice Boardwalk and he had lowered the Banksy prints from $5 to $2. Why'd you do that? He says that they weren't selling it.
They weren't selling. Yeah. It's pretty good.
So, do artists have a moral obligation?
Like, I think everyone has some sort of moral obligation, but so it's like, yeah, artists do too. Like, you should probably be nice to people and whatnot, but I don't like. It's hard. I'm probably on the opposite end. Like, if we look at artists in the past, like it's hard now. Like, of course, I don't want to watch a Woody Allen film at this point, knowing what I know, or like Claude Jutra becomes really hard. It's like, oh, that's difficult, and so, but like 400 years from now, it's easy to look back and like the morality sort of changes. You're judging the work for what it is, not who the person was. So,
well, that's separate the art from the artist, and it's a really good point.
Yeah, but it's impossible to do in the moment. Like I can't look at, at these people in that way, but it won't have the same emotional impact later on.
Yeah. No,
so, I think like artists have like the right to fuck up too, because we're like you're the litmus test. So it's like you're not always you're not always perfect, and it's like it's hard at this point not to make a misstep.
Yeah.
No,
it's a really good point, because Beckett says fail once, then fail again, and fail better. And a friend of mine I interviewed with all these questions a few weeks ago, he goes, yeah, and fail again worse.
yeah. But our fail now and be canceled for the next 5 years. Right. It's like, so like we're at a hypersensitive time, and rightfully so. Yeah.
Yep.
Like
so can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
It's strange. I've thought about this a lot, because I've been writing a lot, and like kind of in like in a sort of memoir-esque voice, but trying to cover sort of issues that are affecting me at the moment. And I have memories, but they're really strange. I don't have a good memory to begin with, but it's like I remember smashing my head on a glass table when I was a kid. Like and I don't know if that's an early memory, but I remember it happening. And I have false memories. There's like a lot of false memories because I'm a liar and I mythologize a lot. And so like some of that stuff has become true. Which is also like,
no, that's good. You really get this, Clint, and I appreciate it. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
it depends what those memories are of.
Yeah.
You know, lots of memories haunt people.
Yeah.
Like, and especially if you're of survived any sort of trauma, you know, then it's 100% a curse. But
yeah,
I also feel like nostalgia feels nice.
Yeah.
You know, but
now, tell me a role model or someone had an impact on you within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family, just briefly. And what specifically was that impact?
Another early memory is I didn't know my dad very well, my real dad, my biological dad or whatnot, and I met my my stepdad, who's had a huge impact on my life. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the same person if he wasn't around. And it's but I remember when my mom brought him home and it was like scandalous. Or there's like scandal. It was like so I remember the scandal because we were like kind of living at like in a sort of trailer park, and it caused a lot of like controversy. My family was living in that area, and so everybody sort of knew and were talking about it. But I didn't feel the scandal, but I remember it. But yeah, it would have been my life would have just been different without having him around. But
what do you mainly get from him? What would you say one influence you got from your stepdad? Or
just like outlook, you know, like just like the way he perceives the world. So he's like a very intelligent, sort of down to earth, patient, you know.
Cool. No, you answered well.
Like,
so now outside your immediate family, it doesn't have to be early, but someone who had an impact on you growing up or was a role model outside your immediate family.
Yeah. Like at one point we got Leslie Suppin and I got to meet Helen Hill, and that like changed. That's partly why we are making work today. And so
cool.
Yeah, it was rad. I have really fond memories, but it was also like very sort of constructed. We were both watching a lot of movies at the time, and but yeah, that had a huge input. I'd say that Alex McKenzie at The Blinding Light also had a huge.
Oh wow!
Like the Blinding Light cinema was like my introduction to cinema. Yeah.
You're talking to two of my heroes. Let me tell you a quick Helen Hill story.
Sure.
Her husband and her daughter with that husband appeared at an event I produced down the street at Beyond Baroque to show, the documentary he made on her and talk.
Yeah.
And,
the Florentine collection, or
oh my God. And it's making me tear up as we talk. But at one point, it's hard for him to appear and talk with the film.
Sure.
Because
the film's devastating.
It was devastating, and she was shot in front of the kid and the husband.
Sure, yeah.
And he was shot too. And as the husband is talking, the son taps the dad on the shoulder, like, "It's all right, Dad." like a 9 like, I mean, maybe 8 or 9-year-old kid, like, being a support system. It was like, wow, because Helen Hill is very important. And Alex booked the Pixel Fest.
Of course he did. I remember it from those days. There's
Yeah.
one of the things I liked about Pixelis or still do is like how democratized the fest is, despite how restrictive the camera seems to be. But I'm no longer using my camera. The last video I shot that's Pixel Vision. I shot in full disclosure, I shot on my iPhone using the new app, and then I just put in the sound of the motor and all the other stuff that I like about the sound it makes while editing, which I hope they add to the app. I wrote a nice little comment on their app to include the motor sound that you can turn on and off, and to make that zipping sound when the camera starts.
Super. But yeah, you should know, this is a side really fast. I'll pay to have your Pixel camera fixed.
Oh, it's amazing. I still wouldn't use one anymore.
That's good.
I'm over it. I'm too old. I don't want to figure out how to, like, I used to have all the whole workflow figured out, and it's just like, no, I can do it on my phone. I'm just gonna do it. Good. No, I can fix it in post.
That's a great attitude, because that perfectly aligns with. I did a workshop at MIT on Pixel Vision, and Joe Gibbs was present. And this was pre-cell phones and internet. This is a long time ago. And he goes, what if I faked Pixel, and entered it in your festival? I goes, go ahead.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, do it. My favorite is that Eli's Vidster video. Still, like,
yeah.
Like that video makes me it cracks me up every time I see it. I've used it as a teaching tool a few times too when I was still teaching classes. It's so funny. It's like it's made in the right spirit,
Yeah. But we're gonna go into filmmaking in a few seconds. You're like this big hotshot experimental filmmaker.
Oh yeah, right.
No, let me finish. In LA, I was interviewing him with all these questions, and about at this point, he goes, "Aren't you going to ask me about film?"
That's pretty good.
Okay, so did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Oh, I'll pass on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Right. No, that's all right. Do you pray?
No. I'm an atheist, like hard atheist. So I'm a politically like agnostic when it all comes down to it, because like I don't know, but my intuition says hard no, and socially I'm a hard no.
A hard no is great.
Socially, for sure.
Yeah. But the last God question is funny. If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Oh, he wouldn't waste his time on like talking to me. He has so many people to talk to. There's a lot of,
That's a good answer.
I'd have lots of questions, but he wouldn't have. Everyone would be asking. It'd take too long. He'd have a seminar.
I'd always go, hey, who killed Kennedy, dude?
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell us?
Yeah. Oh, the wait till the next government document's released. That's the next batch coming.
Clint, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
It's without a God, it's like you're the evil one. It's on you,
Yeah.
And you can own it or not, But yeah.
How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? This one I set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, Clint, how would you react to the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Yeah, like I usually just ignore my enemies, and then I usually like I art prank all the time people that I respect. Like I think Windex here, like even after a little shit talking, the only reason you waste your time is because like I think it could be better. I want it to be better. I like it. you know? So it's like, so you don't waste your time on F students, you know? You waste your time on D students.
Yeah.
Like because they can be better. But like don't spend time. Like I'm not spiteful enough to want to burn all my enemies to the ground. Although it's like fun to poke fun,
Yeah. No, that was a good answer. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago at Volta Cinema. But he basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?"
Yeah, he clearly didn't see James Benning's work,
That was the first time anyone ever interrupted me mid-question. That was perfect. James Benning screaming his jeans right now. Thank God. No. P. Adam Sidney. I'll interrupt too. P. Adam Sidney goes, "Joyce didn't say that, so I had to add the word allegedly."
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Of course, Sidney would take that seriously too,
Yeah. But he did. You know what he said when I said, "What's your favorite form of information?" Guess what he said?
What's that?
Pillow talk. And you know why? Because his wife died when their 10-year-old daughters were when their daughters were 10 years old.
Oh,
so
man.
he was invested in an important marriage. She died because they mixed antihistamines in grapefruit juice, and they didn't know that you couldn't do that at that time.
Oh,
So
man.
it blew him out, and he was dying to have pillow talk. So
Sure,
to say,
yeah.
what's your favorite form? He was missing it. So anyways, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Clint, why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Because it can be revealing too. Like I don't know what 10 skies gives us, but I'm not gonna defend like Peter Goodell and all of those I don't think people should be making atom bombs of boring. It's like boredom is a political tool because Hollywood doesn't give you boring. It's like, but I like a lot of those Hollywood films. It's like, I don't. I like it's it's just like it's like a good book. It's like good literature. It's like revealing. It opens up, and I like work that opens up to you something beyond. So
no, that's a great answer. So
and we don't have to make anti-illusionist work to do that. Like we're hinting at things like that earlier, where it's like revealing the technologies and so on and so forth. I like. Yeah, most people know they're watching a movie. So it becomes how training people to think critically is a different tool.
It's like Guido Pontecarvo, who made Battle of Algiers. They said, so what do you want people to get out of your film? Or that great line, how does your film inform people? Or he says, how to make a film.
Sure.
And that's an amazing thing for a guy whose film is used by Bush and by the Black Panthers to train people.
Sure.
I mean, that shows you the power. That film is like dope. So what first attracted you to go, I want to be a filmmaker? And then specifically, was it an experimental filmmaker, or did you just say, oh, I can do that, because you were watching normal shit and then you found experimental film? Like, walk me through that path.
No, I'm kind of like an anomaly. Like I was watching a lot of stuff, like in my late teenage years. I remember like
You mean stuff meaning normal films or experimental?
both. I was watching a lot of like art house cinema. Like the Pacific. I was living in Vancouver at the time, so the Pacific Cinematheque did full retrospectives of people like Pasolini, or like all the quote unquote greats. You could watch a Chantal Ackerman like retrospective or whatnot.
Right, but before that, you were watching, VHSs of Star Wars, or what did you grow up watching?
Like we didn't have cable when I was a kid, so maybe this is so I had one channel and I'd watch like Saturday morning cartoons with like Rocket Robin Hood and the Mighty Hercules, or Spider-Man.
But were you going then? Hey, I want to make those.
No,
I want to make.
No, it wasn't like I didn't start making stuff till I was like 26.
So
and I was studying mathematics beforehand. I was spending a lot of time in the cinema, as an escape, so I was like when I was young, I was escaping to the cinema, and then Vancouver's kind of like a good spot for that. And then I discovered the Blinding Light, and I spent a lot of hours there. And I was watching experimental films, and they were even having like film contests. You could make a film, but I'm like, I don't really do that, Yeah. I do this other stuff, but I enjoyed watching them. I've always really liked, like, my favorite type of cinema isn't necessarily experimental cinema, which I like, but I like no budget cinema. I like people that do it for like because they love it, like it's really like amateur. Yeah. And a lot of experimental cinema fits that. But I also like cinema that's fun, which people seem to forget that, like, experimental cinema doesn't have to be 10 skies. Yeah. Nothing. I have nothing against Benning. I have a lot of respect. I find a lot of his early work funny. Like, I think One Way Boogie Woogie is a pretty funny flick. Pretty clever. And so it's like, it's not, Bennings just becomes like an easy target, and it's out of respect. So, and it's a lot of it's out of respect.
No, it's great. Cause I mean, I've always hated Brakhage, cause he was like, you ask anybody in LA, you ever see any experimental film? They go, yeah, you mean Brakhage and Anger? They're not the only ones, but it doesn't mean that this is their work. I mean, we creamed our jeans when we saw that first Boogie Woogie film in Ann Arbor in like 73.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's it.
Like, we did what I think great art should do. It should fuck your shit up and say, I can do that. And
sure. Yeah.
I could do that. We could put a camera on our car windshield and drive across the country. That's
sure.
Easy.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like that stuff. Yeah. So like I've come from it from like a sort of no budget sort of, like, I like the like, yeah, like innovation, and I think that comes in like lots of forms. Like, I'm not a Boris snob by any means, and it's like, this is real art, this isn't,
right.
So it's like, and I'm not just talking camp either. Like, there's lots of people who are like, oh yeah, but then you're just like watching this campy shit, and I'm like, no, I genuinely like this, like, no budget cinema, and it's like, I'm not just trying to reclaim the trash, quote unquote. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff within that. And I think it's like important to reclaim the trash too, but it's like, there's other stuff too. Like,
I'll give you a good example, because everybody and their mother loves David Lynch and John Waters. And, I showed Eraserhead when it first came out, and we went, what the fuck is this? And, he made it by delivering Wall Street journals. That's what that's how he made the money to make it.
Yeah.
Then, he'll never make a film better than Eraserhead. I don't care. Good luck. But,
yeah, it's true.
But it just became this cliche. Like, do you know experimental film? And they go, you mean like David Lynch? I goes, he's not experimental film. Well, he has elements of it, but but he's he's experimenting within like the Hollywood system, which is like important. He also still has like quote unquote integrity, and like, so it's like, no, I like that. I like the spirit in what it's like a spirit. Maybe it's like more of a spirit. Right.
And
But I'm saying, when did you kick over? You're at Blinding Lights saying we're having a contest. What kicked you over to go, well, I'll try it?
I was like in Winnipeg at the time, so I moved from Vancouver to Winnipeg, and the one take Super 8 at the Windex was they're like, just shoot a roll of film, and like I was kind of goaded on by a few people, and so I did, and it wasn't very good, but I had fun doing it.
But that's the key. You had fun. So let's jump right into it, Clint. A screenwriting teacher told me great art or great film is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. A great film or great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
It's like it's there, but I don't think it's like the be all end all.
Yeah.
You know, like I as a theorist, I like reading beyond what the maker has to say about their work. You know, and I think good work opens up to the viewer. It leaves enough element. It's not like airtight, where like, here's my intention, and you suck all the air out of the work. You know, like, this is what I was doing. You see it. Oh, it's clever. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I did that too. You know, and I like work that opens up. So, but intention plays a role. You don't want to ignore what an artist has to say about their work. You know, it's just part of it.
Yeah, but that's interesting. You're saying what they have to say or what their piece is saying. So let's go back. We're going to return to that because that really intrigued me a lot. But Duchamp says there's no art without an audience. When you're making your film, how much are you thinking of your audience?
I'm thinking. I think more people should. I think like the really boring shit is when you don't think about. Oh, I'm being rigorous. You know, like, don't give a shit what my audience has to say. They're gonna be bored. Like, yeah, like, you know, like you should think of it. Like, I think that's like part of it, but it's also considering who your audience is too, and like, if you're gonna make jokes, especially like jokes require like knowing your audience a little bit. You know, like that they get your references, that like if you reference, like, I don't know, Peggy Owish, they're gonna get it, you know, or whatever. Like, so it's like, so you have, and if not, maybe you have a duty to explain to them, like, to give them the context for that or whatever. Like, and I think you have a duty for that as a filmmaker. But if you want like half the audience to be confused, that's cool too. But you should be aware that like, that there's going to be people in these seats watching your flick, and they may not get it. How much do you want to give them? So yeah, it's like considering, but I also like there's a lot of like I like the idea of making cinema for one person.
Yeah.
Like, so like, oh yeah, no, it's meant to get to that person only. And like, other people may see it, but you know, so what? It was really I'm okay with that too. So, and I don't mean that one person's myself.
You must have ESP, because what you evoked, I had to say was, Frank Zappa says, "Oh, I just write my music for myself. If the other people like it, great." I'm like, that's romanticizing it. I appreciate him saying that, but I know he knew if he hit these notes and said these words, he would sell music and be able to write more music. So,
and dude, it's not like he sat around listening to his own records. You know what I mean? Like,
no, he didn't. But I'm saying it's also, he's like, if you have fun making your film for one person, it seems to me that's what's important to you.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's it.
It's not that you're going to win in Ann Arbor the grand prize.
Oh no, they won't even show my work at this point. You know, it's like, it's not the 70s anymore. You know, when you can make anything. Well, you know, and maybe since David Donnell's gone, maybe I have a chance.
How many times have you entered Ann Arbor
about? When I was really pursuing like the festival stuff, and I was interested in like, I probably submitted 10 times, and some work that like, and 10 times in that, and I made work that was like, there's like 2 or 3 of those that are like, yeah, that's real. Yeah. Like, that's like,
here's that one. You know, I have many many issues with the festival I love that weaned me.
David Tennell didn't like my work. He didn't like me. So
Dude,
let's just.
I don't want to get into particular names.
No, I'll get into particular names with. I'll do it.
Off screens podcast we can, but I understand what you're saying because cinema's only about 130 years old. The festival's 60 years old. That's pretty amazing. That half the length of the medium that the festival exists. But I say what they should do and should have done is if after you've entered 10 times, you should automatically get in at least once. That should not, because I know people who've entered 8 times and they say, and I know huge, big shot superstars of experimental film whose great works were rejected, and they go, fuck them, I'll never enter them again. I'm like, there's something wrong with this picture. They're not seeing the big picture.
Yeah, no, this is like curatorial taste. Like people have specific taste, blah blah blah. Like there's a lot wrong. I don't blame. Like I make fun of David. I don't mind him. You know, it's like
it's same with Crossroads and in blah.
Yeah, I've never done Crossroads either. Right. Although I think I've shown at the San Francisco Cinematheque outside of that.
Yeah.
But like I also like I don't take that shit personally. I don't care all that much. Like
that's the best thing. That's your best advice you could have been saying.
Yeah, like it's just for this shit's just for fun. I did make a fake James Benning once. And I submitted it under his name. I even created a little Gmail account and stuff to Migrating Forms. And when it was still around under that name, and they accepted it. And then they sent me a rejection email a few days later when I guess they figured out it wasn't the James Benning. and they said we mistakenly put it in the acceptance pile. We should have sent a rejection letter or something like that. But it was like pretty hilarious.
Now that's worth making a film about. But did James Benning ever hear that you did that?
I have no idea. I've only met him once or twice.
Yeah.
And at the time I had made My 10 Skies with the skies crossed out, and it was only his clouds.
Yeah.
And so we kind of talked about that, and then he
wasn't pissed. He said
a little bit. Like my statements were all really mean. I didn't take them. They were meant to be funny, but they could be seen as mean-spirited. But they weren't. And they weren't the intent. If we want to talk about intent, they weren't intended. They were intended to rock the boat and talk about what's appropriate for appropriation, and like can we appropriate a master's, quote unquote, master's work, you know? And
guess what? You know what he did, which is an amazing thing. He took paintings by outsider artists like Henry Darger.
Yep.
And reproduced them. It's sort of like Hunter Thompson typed out The Great Gatsby so that he could learn how a great writer works. And James did it with outsider painters so he could get into that headspace of how they did that. So what's the difference? You just happened to change it a little. Anyways, let's move on.
No, that's it. That's why it's funny. Like it's like all humorous. Like it's all like taking the piss and not taking the medium too serious. Although Pat O'Neill did yell at me and said, you can't
that is great,
which is like
those are the two big
Cal Arts, like
the two big LA experimental film guys who say they would be interviewed by me, but then they never do the follow-up. It's like, come on. At least the other guy, whatever his name is, I won't mention his name. His interview is very funny. And then my favorite was Jordan, the animator in San Francisco. What's his name?
Belson? No,
not Jordan Belson. The animator who does the like Max Ertz animations.
I have no idea.
Larry. No, isn't it Larry Jordan?
Larry Jordan, yeah, okay, yeah, Larry Jordan.
Larry Jordan. I gave him. He says I'll do it on email, and I sent him 150 questions or 50 questions, and he answered one. Like
nice. Yeah.
And then Gunvar Nelson wrote back. She goes, "I find your questions too overwhelming. Yeah, and Robert Nelson's dying of cancer, and he answered like 20 of them. So, anyways, blah blah blah. Thanks for doing this, Clint. Let's
It's
move
fun.
on. Now we're gonna get into.
I feel like I'm on the radio with all of the call-in numbers and everything. Like,
Oh no,
so,
it's super cool. The fun thing is that after a year, you see how many views are there, and it's like 5 views, that's a lot, or no, 800 views, that's a lot. It doesn't matter.
yeah, sure,
It
sure.
doesn't matter to me. It's beautiful that we can do this live. This is a live TV show. It's like
Sure, I'm in. I feel like I'm on public access right now. You know.
Yes, it's public
Yeah,
access. It's like Ernie Kovacs, you know.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
yeah. Okay. So Peter Greenaway said that cinema is much too rich a medium to be left to storytellers. Are experimental filmmakers telling stories a different way or doing something completely different?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
Tony Conrad's The Flicker is not storytelling per se. It's
sure.
one frame
Frampton would
after
argue
another.
the opposite. You know, it's always storytelling, but
So he would
Frampton
probably
would claim that it is storytelling.
Tony would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what Tony would say. Yeah,
no, but
Tony
who did you say?
Frampton would say that
Oh,
it.
Frampton would claim, because
Yeah,
Andrew Noren says it too. Andrew
yeah,
Noren says if you put one frame after another, that is storytelling.
it's a story.
But
Yeah,
you get my basic
yeah,
question.
sure.
You don't have to answer the question. It's mainly that, you know, Herzog yelled at me when I asked him this question. He started bitching about how horrible Peter Greenaway is, and I was going, dude, you're not answering the question.
Sure.
It's that you know, this it's I'm not trying to say narrative and storytelling is bad, but it seems as though cinema's been hijacked by storytelling per se, like all it is the history of filming plays. That most of it's a moving image art form. So what Peter Greenaway is saying is that cinema is a moving image art form, but usually all they do is film a play. So they don't really exploit it as a moving image art form.
Sure.
So any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I don't know. I like them both. I'm easy when it comes to narrative. I want to think. I want to think through the work. So if you can do that with a compelling narrative, I'm in. If you can do it non-narrative, I like, that's great too. I think both work. Non-narrative and the non-narrative in the not one frame after another, but like rejecting a conventional narrative, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think both can be effective. I have no real preference for one over the other.
Well, good. Let's jump right into this. Michael Apted, I asked him 40 years ago when MTV was first starting, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Now, most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it really came a prominence in MTV era 40 years ago, to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. This guy told me the other day, and now he's cutting them slower because Netflix said you can make your film 3 hours long now.
Yeah, sure.
So he's like, Thelma, slow down.
And so cinema becomes a thing. Like, you're responding to the trends of the time, you know, and and you're trying to like buck the trend sometimes, or
right. So Michael said, I says, why do they feel so obliged to edit fast? He says, because we've learned to take in information faster. I asked this question with a bias. Can humans literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking like when I'm reading, I sometimes I get overwhelmed when there's too much information. Like, you know, you've seen like short programs where there's just too many films, you know?
Yeah.
So I think like 50 minutes is a pretty good program. And if you have more than that, divide it into 2 parts. within reason or whatever, because you just can't focus on a single idea. There's just too many being presented.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like we can take in information faster, like, but you need time to sort of cook an idea, you know, or at least I do. But there's people that are way smarter than I am too. Like, there's people who are really fucking quick. I was thinking about, and I'm like, I've never been oh yeah, I have the right answer immediately. You know, it takes my brain a few seconds. Probably drink too much or something, or not enough coffee.
No, you did it fine. But the hidden question is can humans literally multitask?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Like, are you weakening something? Probably, but like, does that email need to be perfect? You know, like, like, yeah, I'm editing a photo and watching a movie. I'm probably missing something, you know.
Yeah.
But oh well.
So let's say me and you are starting the Ann Arbor Film Festival 60 years ago with George Banyapelli. Should we be more inclusive or exclusive?
Oh, inclusive, 100%.
Inclusive?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I won't even word the rest of the question. What are the services and disservices of ghettoizing experimental film? Jackson Pollock was on the cover of Life magazine in '49. Regular people could start forming an aesthetic on experimental painting. There's no Bruce Conner or Maya Derens on Life magazine. Generally, it's privileged, rich art kids who develop an aesthetic for avant-garde filmmaking. Any comments?
That's probably true to this day. Like, and maybe that's why you want to fight for inclusion. Inclusion to me means like a diversity of ideas, which also like means a diversity of makers.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody's fighting to have more like BIPOC people and include in their festival. The recent years, the trends and stuff. And so this is great. But like, if you just had a less defined idea of what excellence was, you'd be showing that work to begin with. You know, and if you noticed that it was lacking, you'd be putting some cash into community outreach. Like, because that's how you get kids to make stuff, and that's how you see a diverse audience, and so on and so forth. Like, yeah, inclusion, like for me, this stuff's always been a community thing. Like, I think I go back to like the Blinding Light felt like a bit of a community, you know. Yep. And like, artist-run centers should be meeting the needs of their community. They should be asking, what does our community need? And I don't feel they're doing that as much. Ann Arbor should be asking, what are the needs of our immediate community? What are the needs of since they're an international fest at this time, what are the needs of the you know, sort of international? But you start locally.
But no, I appreciate what you said. You're a wise person. I appreciate it, because I always says it doesn't matter what squiggly line we're seeing on the screen in Ann Arbor. It's what you say in the lobby with your friends and talk with the community about it. So of course it's both. But
yeah, really, and like you'd see that like it'd be a more diverse community if you have like a less defined idea of what excellence is. I think like there's a problem like when you're like, I'm a tastemaker, I have very specific tastes, like, and this is where maybe my problems with people like David Donnell and like those, like that era of, because like they became curators, like real, like, this is my taste. Totally. And I find that
I know that whole world so deep, and you're really pulling the curtain away.
Yeah,
it should be pulled away, but again, it's the whole motive of George Banyapelli was not to give awards, and then someone sort of
fuck awards and pay every fucking artist to spread that money.
Yeah. You know what Fred Camper said? I couldn't believe it. I says, you've lived in Chicago all your life and you never went to the Ann Arbor Film Festival in 50 years. I goes, why? You're experimental film, theorist and critic. And he goes, because it's money. And I was like, but George didn't start it that way. He got hijacked, and it got hijacked into giving awards. So let's go back.
And didn't Mikas like subvert some of that too? didn't he give an award to somebody who just submitted and wasn't actually on the roster?
Dude,
Like,
I don't even want to go there on live TV, but someday we'll talk off camera.
Sure, I'm into that. I'm into airing a little bit of the dirty laundry of the scene. I'm okay with that. A little gossip and intrigue.
No, gossip and intrigue, but I want to get through a few more of our questions, because actually I asked for 90 minutes. Can you go over like 10?
Yeah, I have a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go with this. What attracted you to call yourself a film theorist? Did you read Bazan or Manny Farber, or who'd you read growing up that sort of lured you into that world?
I don't even see myself as a theorist per se, but
you said it earlier, and I like it because you.
Yeah, I'm sure. You
have a knowledge, film historian,
scholar, maybe something like that. I like at a certain point, I went to school for this stuff. Like I have a PhD in cinema studies, so it's like I have some training in this.
But what writing wise, who were your top three that wrote about experimental film more specifically?
There for Spirit, like there's a bunch. Like I think about the Star experimental animation book.
Oh, Cecil Star?
Yeah, and
oh God, that's amazing. You know, she's a McLuhan person.
Sure.
I corresponded with her and sadly never got an interview with her. Tell me two more writers that made an impact.
And this is canonical, but what hit? I think Expanded Cinema was another big.
Totally. Now I did get lucky, and I interviewed Gene Youngblood with all these questions.
Amazing.
You got to read that one. You're going to get a kick because it's okay. And the third person or
for fun, and I think more people should write like this, especially as makers, just to give the opposite. And I love artist interviews, so and I love doing them as the same with as well. But I think about Dorsky's devotional cinema.
Oh,
and it's something I pick up all the time. And
well, wait until you hear my Dorsky interview comment off screen. Okay,
sure.
So here's the one you'll love, Clint. You'll love this one. I said that
he's definitely watching as well.
Huh?
He's definitely watching as well.
He's jealous that he hasn't signed up from our live TV show yet. But David James once casually, I just said, sometimes I like to read about experimental film more than watch it. And he goes, not me.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, it's just, I goes, all the power to you, dude.
Okay, that's it. I like David James writing about class. When I think about class in relation to cinema, I think David I wrote a text called "Does Experimental Film Have Class?" based on one of his texts as well. So
nice. Did you send it to him?
I should. I didn't. It was kind of I sent it to a few people and I got really weird feedback and I just kind of put it to the side.
Send it to me, and if I read it and go, I would like to, I'll send it to him if you allow me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah,
okay, let's go on because we're cutting out a whole lot, or we'll do a part 2 someday.
Yeah, sure. This has been fun.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Oh, you try not to compromise. You have to. Compromise is just something you do when you're forced into it. Yeah, you try and follow your convictions, and of course they're going to lead to some compromise. But you can't be a perfectionist either.
Yeah,
you never do anything.
Yeah. What's one major element of your filmmaking that's changed since you started, and one major element that stayed the same?
I haven't made a lot of flicks in recent years because I just the experimental impulse in me, the reason I used to do the other stuff has sort of gone away. It's not as fun anymore. So I've changed. I mainly deal with photographs now, and it became fun again. So the thing that's consistent is the fact that the stuff I genuinely find fun. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
Right. So your motive is have fun, and then the mediums have changed.
Yeah, and like enjoying like the process. And if you're not doing that, there's no point in wasting your time with this stuff. Like, or for me, like I'm not looking to be famous through through the work or anything like that. It's like it really is like, and I think that fun comes across for like viewers. So you're thinking about your viewership, of course. You want them to like it's not just like, oh yeah, fun for me and like boring for everyone else. Right. It's like it's so like that's the fun stayed the same and the mediums have changed.
But Clint, as a degenerate what did you call yourself? Psychopath. You pretty much have empathy.
Sociopath. I'm not a psychopath. Haven't killed anyone yet.
Sociopath. I'm sorry.
Because I'm feelingless.
A degenerate sociopath. You still have pretty much. You're very empathetic towards the human beings, fellow humans.
Yeah, I don't want to show them riddles with the Sphinx. I don't want to bore anyone to death. That's not the goal. I meant it's like I think people should like enjoy their time on
that
we have here. So like making cinema that reflects that doesn't mean it's uncritical either. Like lots of people think like once it's kind of fun, you're not critical. It's like no, you can have fun and be critical at the same time, or you can present ideas that open up and like lots of people think like you need to show 10 skies for people to really understand the politics, an anti-war stance or whatever. It's just like no, it doesn't have to be that. It can be
it's
more.
like Owen Landau,
a favorite.
And Robert Nelson, those guys, and in Hollis, they had a sense of humor. They didn't take themselves that serious. But it really, Zappa nails it best. He goes, "I'm very serious about being not serious."
Yeah, that's it. Like, Chris Kennedy once said, he's like, "Clint, there's something you need to learn. Serious is fun." And it's like, no, it's not. Like, I want to have serious fun, like.
Yeah, I want serious fun. That's good.
Yeah, it's like.
Okay, so Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. Tell me a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength.
Well, I think like that's like a lot of the impetus for making like experimental media is like taking the quote unquote mistakes of traditional cinema and making them like the weaknesses and making them strengths, right?
Yeah.
Like film's not supposed to burn, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to burn it, or don't point your video camera at the sun. So what does an artist do? They point it immediately at the sun. It's like. And it's see like, what happens.
Nam June Paik putting a magnet on the TV.
Don't put magnets near your television. And then it's like you find the biggest magnet you can find, and you see what happens.
You know what? I was watching Joe D'Alessandro's one at Dracula or Frankenstein on 35 millimeter CinemaScope in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in a big theater. And the film burned, and we were all like, "Wow!"
Yeah, totally.
We were at the Ann Arbor Film Festival. It was excellent.
I went to see the last 35 millimeter film that wasn't like experimental or blah 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 was John what is it? Jean-Claude Van Damme. So JCVD was playing at a traditional cinema, and the gate got stuck, and the film just started to burn, and we just like. There was a time when they only had one projectionist running between so we just like sat there watching this print burn, and it was really beautiful. But about Ann Arbor, did you ever meet another sort of weird fascination? Did you ever meet Keewaydin Dewdney? Key Dewdney?
Spell it.
Like Keewaydin, like K. He made a film called The Maltese Cross Movement. Would have played around 67, 68.
I wasn't there then.
Okay.
No, but send me his name, and I'll tell me about it later.
Yeah, sure.
We're right on time, but no, we can gab on an not live TV.
Sure. Yeah. Fair.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Don't get a PhD in experimental cinema. You'll be washing dishes, dude. You're really fucked up. Don't do it. Not at the job market right now. Don't do it. The humanities, don't go to school. Go do something else. Become a chef.
But the beauty is, it seems as though you have a great attitude, and that's what you had to do to realize that life is fun.
So yeah, sure.
You can't regret. Okay.
No, I have no regrets. Like what can you do? It's like, yeah, we're in this time, but that's okay. There's no Sydneys anymore.
Yeah.
It's
How do you find peace of mind?
Pardon me?
How do you find peace of mind?
Oh, yeah, I've get a really boring job. Start washing dishes. There's many times I've become a Zen master.
No, dude, that is an amazing answer, because I've studied this for years, and the great artists get like security jobs, so they just sit there and they don't do anything, and then they can save all their creative power at night when they work on their art.
That's it. Like, get it. Even better than washing dishes, which is if anybody wants to hire me to deliver like mail through an office, I'll do it in a second. Like, become the mailroom person. Yeah. That is the job. Yeah. If you want the even security guard, it's like you're gonna bubble up, or something. You get to walk all day. You can do whatever you want. Mailroom job. No, I've come to the conclusion that's the greatest job that one can have, and you'd have total peace of mind.
Yeah. if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I don't. That's hard. I've had to clean up vomit the other night, so it's like I'd probably take the vomit. I'd take the plunge. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's all vomit and shit. So yeah, maybe.
The guy who taught me that question is an amazing human being. And
what was their answer? What can we learn? What was the Zen answer to this?
I'll tell you. The greatest answer I ever got was a woman on the Venice boardwalk. She says, I'd take the velocity of the bag of shit coming at my head, and I'd use it to swoop my way out of the vat of vomit. And I says, dude, that is Descent into the Maelstrom by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, sure.
It's the intro to Mechanical Bride by McLuhan. He says, if we watch the patterns and study the patterns, we can use them to as a breakdown and flip it into a breakthrough.
Sure. Yeah, there'd be some type of breakthrough, I'm sure, in that.
Okay, just a couple more. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh man, I have no idea. I'll leave it to them, but there'd be some really good fucking around stories. There'd be some good Babylon stories within that. I don't know.
That's good. No one's ever talked about the content when I ask them that question. They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
Oh, I'd go I want stitched. Can't I have a stitched book? Isn't it gonna be real?
Oh, you can have a
I thought this was my autobiography. Why are you settling on perfect bound when you could have
dude, you're the only person in 40 years who have said no glue allowed. I'm stitching it. That's it.
It has to look good.
Yeah. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
Oh man, I'd recommend against that too. It's gonna get pulled down 30 years later.
But what would it be made of?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about how to make sculptures to answer that. Like, you know, make it so that at least when it falls, it makes a sound. You know, like I wanted to make a big clunk when they topple it.
Yeah. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Like it's like I don't really like wine, but I know you hawk good bottles of wine for a lot of money. I wouldn't want that. I don't know, but they're considered good. I don't know. It's too subjective. It's too weird.
No, that's a
like a fine bottle of wine, and then you could turn it down and look really snobby. Yeah, champagne. No, thank you. I don't drink champagne.
That's a very legit answer. The answer I get the most is fame, money, and heroin.
Oh, crazy! Yeah. Money. I'd want a little bit more money. Yeah. Fame, like it would help you get a little bit more money. And like, I'm not saying I want all the money. It's just like it'd be nice to like not worry about it. You know?
Yeah.
Don't have to be rich. But,
right. Exactly.
But you know, a little bit of cash wouldn't hurt anybody.
What's the healthiest, impactful cultural shift you see developing today?
I like a lot of the as much as I make fun like the memo culture and like the you have to think this way on the left. I think like a lot of the stuff that's happening around identity politics at this very moment is really like important and like is really impactful. Yeah. And so it's like a bit annoying as like a straightish, whitish, male-ish dude at this point in time to be like, you know, like, but whatever. It's like fine. Like, it's this stuff's important. It's going to change. It means I think it means, for instance, like in academia, it means it's going to be more diverse, which means better ideas, more diverse, like more experimental, more like broad. And like I find that stuff enriching. So it's like, so the movement's like it's super important, and now's the time. And the changes are like, for the amount that people are pushing, the changes are going to be really small. You know, like as always, but it's like well worth it.
Really well put. And I'm ignorant of that. When you say memo culture, you're spelling it MEMO?
Yeah, like I made up the term, so I don't.
Oh, what does memo culture mean?
To me, it's just like, it's really like, did you get the memo? Like, we only talk about certain terms in certain ways. Like, and it's usually like, it feels like a lot of just like virtual signaling to me. Like it's around like language.
Signaling, yeah.
Like in that sort of vein, or if a lot of it feels that way, where it's like, oh no, what about intent? Like going back to intent, like, you know, like you're getting mad at that person when you're not getting mad at the systemic problems. Like, or you're mad at that, but you're taking it out on this like small person who actually shares your general outlook. You know?
Yeah.
So
no, it's interesting. It reminds me of a lot of my progressive lefty friends who listen to Amy Goodman would go blah blah blah, and I'd go, oh, what's that? And they go, you don't know about that? And I'm like,
yeah, that's it.
Well, you know, if you approach it like this, well, I would like to enlighten you rather than degrade you, like you didn't get the memo on that.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and yeah, no, it's like it's about like, because I find like the left really divided at this point in time, and and you see it in like the fact that like somebody like Trump could get elected and so on and so forth. Like, and it's like there's problems on that, like on the left, and a lot of it could be solved through actual like engagement with each other and solidarity and community, as opposed to like, oh, like here's the right politics. This is what they look like, and if you don't share these politics, then you're out. You know, it's like oh, that's like, politics are meant to be debated. They're like, everything's gray, there's no black or white. So it's about overcoming some of that, and that you do that through dialogue, through dialectics.
Really amazing. Thank you so much. I have one last question. We'll wrap it up, but I hope we can continue the dialogue forever. Clint, it's been enlightening for me, and I really appreciate it. But
it's been fun.
It reminds me of McLuhan, who was, again, raised in Winnipeg. Great.
Sure. Yeah. And then in Toronto too, where I spent a lot of time.
Toronto, and he said that, and he made an experimental film that's on YouTube with Jane Jacobs, a 12-minute experimental film.
I've never seen that. I'll check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. But he said that really the most integral way to, I don't know what adjectives he used, but the best way to communicate is face-to-face communication. That's eye contact and verbal exchange. And that's the amazing thing that COVID forced us all to do, especially for me and my events, was Zoom forced us to do this face-to-face, framed like this. Your face. We're not even seeing our entire body. And it's face-to-face conversation with another human being. So in closing, is what gives you the most optimism?
Oh, there's lots to be optimistic about. I'm like an optimist about a lot of like the political change that's happening at this very moment. Like I have like great optimism. I want nothing but the world for it, and it's like, I think we're living in really interesting times that way, despite the fact that like everything feels like it's ending.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like we're making some strides, and like, yeah. And like some of it's, yeah, like I have optimism. It's not just like lip service, or it's not just like that things are changing for the better. But I'm an optimistic person to like in general.
Yeah.
Like I believe in the good of people.
Yeah.
Which is maybe I shouldn't so much.
No, I think your hunch towards that is a good hunch, and it's beautiful. So
yeah,
Clint,
it's like
so
feels good.
man.
It's been really fun.
Really
very
fun.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
To be asked, and then when I woke up this morning, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. I'm feeling like pretty rough. We're out till 5 drinking last night. It's like 1 o'clock now. It's like, yeah, it was like it was a night, like it was fun. One of my coworkers is leaving, so we partied it up a little bit, but it was super fun. But
life can be a party, and it has really been a delight. So thanks again, Clint.
It's been a delight.
See ya.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Do I just close the window here?
That's it. You just hit close and we're done. Bye.
Okay, perfect. See you soon. Thank you.